Alright class, we want to get right into it. You have a quiz on Monday. We're going to review every type of problem that you are going to see on this quiz, so let's jump right into it. First problems are going to deal with the idea of similarity and everything we can get from it. Just from the similarity statement, we want to name all the congruent angles and then ratios of corresponding sides. Congruent angles should be easy, you just list them off. Angle L to angle G, because those are the first two in line. You also want to say angle M congruent to angle H, and then angle N to angle I. Nice and easy. Nothing too difficult. Second part, listing the corresponding sides in a proportionality statement. That means that we want to say each side that corresponds, so LM and GH are in a fraction together. It's a ratio together. LM to GH, MN to HI, because those are the second pair, and then LN to GI, and that's all you need to do. Same thing here when you have a quadrilateral, nothing changes. C and M would be congruent, for example. You would also have D and N congruent, E and K, F and L, same idea. As for the sides, you have the same thing, except now you should have four pairs that are congruent to each other, or four ratios congruent, equal to each other. CD over MN, DE to NK, EF to KL, and what's left is CF to ML. You need to have all four of those in the fraction. If you have all of them flipped, so if you have CF and ML flipped here, you would have to have the rest of them flipped as well, just one of our proportion properties. You'll definitely see two of those. It should be an easy couple of points there, just for listing all that information. Alright, next set. Determine whether the polygons are similar, and if they are similar, find the similarity statement. To see if they are similar, you need to look at the corresponding sides, and you need to see whether or not they will form proportions. And the way to do that is by looking from the smallest side to smallest side, and biggest side to biggest side. So, for example, the smallest side of triangle LMN is MN, it is 6. The smallest side over here in OPT is that 4.5. So our ratio should start as 6 over 4.5. We then want to see, is it equal to the biggest sides of this triangle, which would be 12 from the first triangle. Again, we need to line them up. 12 came from LMN, and 9 from triangle B, right there. Those have to be equal to each other, and then what's left over from both triangles, the middle side, 8 and 6. If we reduce those, they should all come down to the same number. If so, they are similar. So, for example, in this one, they all reduce to the fraction 4 over 3. Because of that, we can say, yes, they are similar, because they reduce to that 4 over 3. And 4 over 3, then, is your scale factor, from figure A to figure B. And it's that way because we had A to B. We had A on the top of that fraction, B in the bottom of that fraction. Number 4, you want to set it up the exact same way. Go ahead and do this. This is actually the first question on your quiz. Any of these that are highlighted here in that green are going to be a quiz question. So make sure you have the answer down for this. You can pause your video, get your answer, and then you can write it down when you take the quiz after watching this video. Okay, moving forward. Number 5, we're going to have a couple problems like this. If we're given that we have these two triangles, it's going to give us a little bit of information about them. It will help if you draw the triangle out to see what it looks like. Triangle ABC is isosceles, its perimeter is 18, and it has a leg of length 5. And the base right here is the base of another triangle, DEF, is 34.4 inches long. We have this as DEF, and we have this here as ABC. Since these are isosceles here, we can say that DE and EF are also congruent to each other, but they're a different number. The length of this is 5, meaning the length of this number is 5. We need to find what everything else has to be. Well, if we know the perimeter of ABC is 18, we can then say, well, that's 10. That leaves that there is 8 left for this side of the triangle. And that means now what can we do to find what the perimeter of DEF is? Well, we need to find what DE and EF are. Well, we know we can set up a proportion. We know that since they're similar, we can say, for example, that 5 over, we'll call this side we don't know, x, 5 over x must equal 8 over 34.4. Because of that, you can cross multiply. When you cross multiply, you will get an answer of 8x equals, and let me double check my math here real quick. You will get that it equals 172. And then when you divide by 8 to solve for x, you would get x equals 21.5. So if this is 21.5, that means this is also 21.5. So when you add all three of these sides up, when you add all those sides up and find the perimeter of this triangle, you would get a final answer of the perimeter having to equal 96.9. Nice radio station. Okay, so that's how you want to find those. You want to draw out the triangle. Same thing here. You're going to give the triangle CDX. You know its perimeter. You know what CX is right here is 14. And you're given in GNZ, you're given that GNZ is 58.8. And from that, you want to try to find what's left and figure out how to solve this problem. So go ahead, do this one again, pause the video for a second, and solve it and see what you can get. Alright, moving forward, problems here where we have a bunch of different things that we need to find from one picture. Alright, first thing we want to do is find the scale factor. Scale factor can be found when we when we make our proportions. So if we had Wx over Mn, Wx is 16, Mn is A. So you want to set that up. No, we can't get anything out of that, so that's not going to help us. We know that's equal to. We know it's equal to xy over no. Xy is 8, no is 10. There's where we want to look. We now have a number both in the numerator and the denominator. That's how we find our scale factor. Scale factor is not 8 to 10 though. The scale factor has to be reduced. 8 to 10 will reduce to 4 over 5. 4 to 5. So how can we find then, well, let's just list real quickly what the other two ratios are going to be. We needed yz to op, yz being 12, op being something we don't know, so don't worry about that one. We also need to know wz, which is b, and we need to know mp, which is 12. Okay, so now how can we find values of a, b, and c? Well, we find value a by just using this proportion right here. We have 16 over a equals 8 over 10. Or if you wanted to set that back to your scale factor, you could say equals 4 over 5. Make sure you have it lining up. Something from wxyz to something from MNOP equals your scale factor, which is wxyz to MNOP. So in setting that up, you would have, when you cross multiply, 4a has to equal 16 times 5, which is a value of 90. So you would have that 4a equals 90. When you divide that out, you should get that a equals 22.5. You want to do b in the exact same way. Use your scale factor. 4 over 5 equals b over 12. So 4 over 5 equals b over 12. When you cross multiply, you'd get 5b equals 48. That means that b would equal 48 over 5. And you can put that into a decimal if you want. Any answer, though, if you leave it in this fraction form, as long as it's simplified, that is completely fine. That's all you need to do. Alright, so go ahead, see if you can find what value c is. C, you're going to have to look at a corresponding angle. So take a look at what it corresponds to, and go from there. Number 9, find the perimeter of wxyz. Well, you can find the perimeter. You now know that b was 48 over 5. You can find exactly what needs to be done. You can add everything up. If this is 48 over 5, you can put it in a decimal if that's easier for you to work with, and add all of those numbers up, and you would now have what your answer would have to be. So you would have 20, 36. When you divide that out, you get 9.6. So plus 36 and 9.6 means that this perimeter is 45.6. To find the perimeter of MNOP, you don't need to know all these values. If you know that the perimeter of wxyz was 45.6, that's that perimeter. we divide that by the perimeter of MNOP, because that is our ratio, WXYZ to MNOP. That should just equal our scale factor. So then when we cross multiply, we will end up with an answer that this perimeter here has to be 57. 5 times 45.6, and then you would have to divide by 4. So 57 is your perimeter of MNOP. And what is the ratio of the perimeter of MNOP to the perimeter of WXYZ? Well, we just said the perimeter follows the scale factor. However, we're now going in the opposite order, so we need to say MNOP to WXYZ. We're going backwards. It's not 4 to 5, it's now 5 to 4. Moving forward, let's take a look here at 12 through 15. Are these triangles similar? This is where we're going to use our similarity shortcuts, and if so, we need to say, it says postulator theorem, just say what shortcut. So in this one, are these triangles similar? And in this one, we have to say yes. No matter what, you have a side, side, side idea here. No matter what number you choose, say it's 3 and 2100, you can always make a ratio. 3 over 2100 equals 3 over 2100 equals 3 over 2100. So yes, you would say that these are by side, 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 CMT, similar to triangle ASR. There are lots of different possibilities for that one. 13, no, these are not similar. You don't have side, 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 you don't have side, angle, side, you do not have anything you can work with. Those are not similar. And number 14, we want to look side, angle, side. We have a congruent angle, and we have two sides outside of them. We still need to make sure that the proportions work out well. So if you set up the shorter of the two sides, 6 over 3, it would have to equal the longer of the two sides, which is 8 over 4, which they both reduce down to a factor of 2 over 1. So yes, they are similar by side, angle, side. Go ahead for number 15. Tell me, are they similar? And if so, how did you figure it out? Alright, our last set of problems here. We want to look, when these, we're given that these are similar, we need to find some missing values of A and B here. All we want to look at is from that similarity statement. So, for example, WX has to correspond to MN. WX is A, and MN is 5, so we can set up that proportion. And we can set it equal to, well, what do we know? Do we know XY and NO? We know XY, and yes, we know NO. So that's how you can find your scale factor between the two figures, and then you can cross multiply. 3A has to equal 35, and then when you solve, you would get A equals 35 over 3. And again, you don't need to worry about trying to simplify this fraction. You don't need to put it in a decimal or anything. You just need to go and get it in that fraction, and as long as the fraction is in simplest form, that's all that really matters to us in the end. You would find B in the same way, and I think you can do that on your own. Go ahead and try that and see what you get. In number 17, now we just have it a little bit different. We're now dealing with some ideas with some variables in there we have to deal with. So, same idea. GF and KJ are what are similar to each other. You would have a similarity statement to confirm that. GF and KJ, so you would say 3x plus 2 is GF over 2 from KJ has to equal 5x, which is GH, over KL, 7. When you cross multiply, you would get that 21x plus 14 equals 10x. 11x has to equal then negative 14 when you bring everything over. And x would equal this fraction, negative 14 over 11. Just like that, again, don't need to simplify that fraction other than if it wasn't in simplest form, say if it was 2 over 4, you'd have to reduce that to 1/2. Alright, last one, number 18, I'm going to have you try on your own. Draw out the triangle, see what kind of triangle you have, see what kind of congruence shortcut possibly you could be dealing with, and find out what you need to do. Same way we did in 17, you have some variables to play with. So give that a try, and that will be your last question on the quiz. And when you do that, again, make sure that you take your quiz, that you finish everything up, and that you're coming into class on Friday to be able to do all these problems. You should have no difficulty in doing them because you've now seen the video and know how to do them. So take the quiz, and you should be good for your in-class quiz on Monday. Have a good night, everyone.